The vibrasaw purred through heavy vines, parted tangled underbrush like a comb through wet hair, and sliced cleanly through metal when the odd mist stroke brought the cutting edge down onto the track. But when its teeth met the gnarled roots and twisted branches of the scrub trees, it was a different story. Tally grew man's as her saw bounced across the hardwood again, spitting bits of bark at her face. Its low hum transformed into a protesting howl. She struggled to force the edge down into the tough old branch. One more cut and this section of track would be clear.
Going good. You almost got it, Tally.
She noticed that Croy stood well back, poised to jump if the saw somehow slipped from her hands. She could see now why David wanted to chop the scrub trees into pieces. It would have been a lot easier than reaching through the tangle of roots and branches, trying to bring the vibrasaw to bear against a precise spot. Stupid trees, Tally muttered, gritting her teeth as she plunged the blade down again. Finally, the saw found purchase in the wood, letting out a high-pitched scream as it bit into the branch. Then it slipped through, free for a second before it thrust spitting and screeching into the dirt below. Yeah! Tally stepped back, lifting her goggles, the saw powering down on her hands. Croy stepped forward and kicked the section of branch away from the track.
Perfect surgical slice, Doctor,
he said. I think I'm getting the hang of this, Tally said, wiping her brow. It was almost noon, and the sun was beating down into the clearing mercilessly. She pulled off her sweater, realizing that the morning chill was long gone. You're right about the trees giving shade.
You said it,
Croy said.
Nice sweater, by the way.
She smiled. Along with her new gloves, it was her prized possession. Thanks.
How much should it cost you?
6 spag bowls.
A little pricey. Pretty, though.
Croy caught her eye.
Tally, remember the first day you got here, when I kind of grabbed your knapsack? I really wouldn't have taken your stuff, not without giving you something for it. You just surprised me when you said I could have everything.
Sure, no problem, she said. Now that she'd worked with Croy, he seemed like a nice enough guy. She'd rather have been teamed up with David or Shay, but those two were cutting together today. And it was probably time she got to know some of the other Smokies better.
And you got a new sleeping bag too, I hope?
Yeah, 12 spag bowls.
Must be almost out of trade.
She nodded. Only 8 left.
Not bad. Still, I bet you didn't realize on your way here that you were eating your future wealth.
Tally laughed. They crouched under the partly cut tree, pulling handfuls of cut vines from around the track. If I'd known how valuable the food packets were, I probably wouldn't have eaten so many, starving or not. I don't even like it anymore. The worst was spag bowl for breakfast.
Sounds good to me,
Croy chuckled.
This section will clear you?
Sure. Let's start on the next one. She handed him the saw. Croy did the easy part first, attacking the underbrush with a humming saw.
So Tally, there's one thing that's kind of confusing.
What's that? The saw glanced off metal, setting up a smattering of sparks.
The first day you were here, you said you left the city with 2 weeks of food.
Yeah.
If it took you 9 days to get here, you should only have 5 days of food left. Maybe 15 packets altogether. But I remember that first day when I looked into your bag, I was like, she's got tons.
Tally swallowed, trying not to show any expression.
And it turns out I was right. 12 plus 6 plus 8 is 26.
Yeah, I guess. He nodded, working the saw carefully beneath the low branch.
I thought so. But you left the city before your birthday, right?
Tally thought fast. Sure, but I guess I didn't really eat 3 meals every day, Croy. Like I said, I was pretty sick of spag bowl after a while.
Seems like you didn't eat much at all for such a long trip.
Tally struggled to do the math in her head, to figure out what sort of numbers would add up. She remembered what Shay had said that first night. Some Smokies were suspicious of her, worried that she might be a spy. Tally thought they all accepted her by now. Apparently not. She took a deep breath, trying to keep the fear out of her voice. Look, Croy, let me tell you something. A secret.
What's that?
I probably left the city with more than just 2 weeks' worth of food. I never really counted.
But you kept saying...
Yeah, I might have exaggerated a little. Just to make the trip sound more interesting, you know? Like I could have run out of food when the Rangers didn't turn up. But you're right. I always had plenty.
Sure.
He looked up at her, smiling gently.
I thought maybe so. Your trip did sound a little bit too interesting to be true.
But most of what I said was.
Of course.
The saw whined to a stop in his hand.
I'm sure most of it was. Question is, how much?
Tally met his piercing eyes, struggling to think of what to say. It was nothing but a few extra food packets, hardly proof that she was a spy. She should just laugh it off, but the fact that he was dead right silenced her.
"You want this off for a while?" he said mildly. "Clearing this up is hard work."
Since they were clearing brush, there was no load of metal to take back at midday. So the railroad crew had brought their lunch out with them. Potato soup and bread with salty olives dotted through it. Talia was glad when Shay took her lunch away from the rest of the group, to the edge of the dense forest. She followed, settling next to her friend in the dappled light. "I need to talk to you, Shay." Shay, not looking at her, sighed softly as she tore her bread into pieces. "Yeah, I guess you do." "Oh, did he talk to you too?" Shay shook her head. "He didn't have to say anything." Talia frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, it's obvious, ever since you got here. I should have seen it right away." "I never—" Talia started, but her voice betrayed her. "What are you saying? You think Croy's right?" Shay sighed. "I'm just saying that—" She stopped and turned to face Talia. "Croy? What about Croy?" "He was talking to me before lunch, and he noticed my sweater and asked if I got a sleeping bag. And he figured that after 9 days getting here I had too much spag bowl left." "You had too much what?" Shay's expression was one of total confusion. "What on earth are you talking about? Remember when I got here, I told everyone that—" Talia trailed off, for the first time noticing Shay's eyes. They were lined with red, as if she hadn't slept. "Wait a second. What did you think I was talking about?" She held out her hand, fingers splayed. "This." "What?" "Hold out yours." Talia opened one hand, making a mirror image of Shay's. "Same size," Shay said. She turned both her palms up. "Same blisters, too." Talia looked down and blinked. If anything, Shay's hands were in worse shape. Red and dry and cracked with the ragged edges of burst blisters. Shay always worked so hard, diving in first, always taking the hardest jobs. Talia's fingers went to the gloves tucked into her belt. "Shay, I'm sure David didn't mean to." "I'm sure he did. People always think long and hard about gifts in the smoke." Talia bit her lip. It was true. She pulled the gloves from her belt. "You should take them." "I don't want them." Talia sat back, stunned. "First Croy, now this?" "No, I guess you don't." She dropped the gloves. "But Shay, shouldn't you talk to David before you go nuts about this?" She chewed at a fingernail, shaking her head. "He doesn't talk to me that much anymore. Not since you showed up. Not about anything important. He's got stuff on his mind, he says." "Oh." Talia grated her teeth. I like David, but it's not your fault, okay? I know that." She reached out and gave Talia's heart-shaped pendant a little flick. "And besides, maybe your mysterious someone will show up and it won't matter anyway." Talia nodded. True enough. Once the specials got here, Shay's romantic life would be the least of anyone's worries. "Have you mentioned that to David? It seems like it might be an issue." "No, I haven't." "Why not?" "It just never came up." Shay's mouth tightened. "That's convenient." Talia let out a groan. "But Shay, you said it yourself. I wasn't supposed to be giving out directions to the smoke. I feel really bad about the whole thing. I'm not going to go advertising it, except by wearing that thing around your neck. Which shouldn't do much good, though, since apparently David didn't notice it." Talia sighed. "Or maybe he doesn't care, because this is all just in your—" She couldn't finish. It wasn't just in Shay's head. She could see it now, and feel it too. When David showed her the railroad cave, and told her his secret about his parents, he had trusted her, even when he shouldn't have. And now this present? Could it really be just Shay overreacting? In a quiet part of her mind, Talia realized she hoped it wasn't. She took a deep breath, expelling the thought. "Shay, what do you want me to do?" "Just tell him." "Tell him what?" "About why you wear your heart. About your mysterious someone." Too late. Talia felt the expression on her face. Shay nodded. "You don't want to, do you? That's pretty clear." "No, I will, really." "Sure you will." Shay turned away, pulling a hunk of bread from her soup and taking a vicious bite. "I will." Talia touched her friend's shoulder, and instead of pulling away, Shay turned back to her, and her expression almost hopeful. Talia swallowed. I'll tell him everything. I promise.